So, hi, welcome everyone. My name is Philip and I'm from the Build Guild. And today my intention is to kind of answer you the question that you see on the screen. How is it possible to easily build on Ethereum? And actually it was funny enough, I mean, two years ago I was kind of curious about how to doing it and I had just no idea how to start. So I was just looking tutorials, how to build and whatever. And it felt very cumbersome and difficult to do it. And then it just happened that I stumbled upon Austin, and Austin is the founder of the Build Guild. He's not here, unfortunately, today. And I was like you sitting in the audience and he was explaining how it is, how easy it is, and how you can get started. And now I'm here 2 years later. I'm just standing here in front of you. So I hope I can give you back some of that experience, and then maybe you will interact with us, the Build Guild. But maybe first of all, to assess a little bit, who of you is a coder? Okay, a bunch. Nice. And how many of you have deployed on Ethereum already? Okay, so we have a good knowledge base here. That's very nice. So maybe before we're gonna head in and I show you, I wanted to give you a quick insight what the Build Guild is. Because the Build Guild is a very cool organization, and I mean, Austin came up with the Build because he thought there are just no applications built on Ethereum. I mean, we see that today, and he decided, okay, we need to incentivize builders to build more applications so that everyone around the world is gonna using Ethereum, and that's how everything is set it up. But then he realized, okay, but to do that, we first need to have some kind of education. And that's how he came up with very nice educational tools and curriculums we have, and that really teach you joyfully how to build on Ethereum with the basic concept. Well, one of that product is Speedrun Ethereum, and that's really, really cool. That's also how it happened to me, how I ended up there, here standing in front of you. Then we have some kind of batches where we teach people how to do some GitHub PRs and really contribute to open source repository. And then to keep builders really building and motivated, we also have some kind of grants. So we can sponsor some people to build the first builds on Ethereum, because it's also very hard if you no one looking at you, no one giving you feedback to that. But then probably one of the main things they Build Guild is building also tools, is Scaffold Eve. And I don't know how many people of you have heard about Scaffold Eve already. Are there some? Yeah, and that's actually what I wanted to show you today, because it's a very amazing tool. Because in the beginning, I mean, I can just talk from my experience. When I came in, there was like, okay, there is something like Hardhat, maybe there's Foundry, then, okay, then you're building the smart contracts, but what do you do then with the smart contracts? Then you're in Remix, and this looks very spacey in the beginning. You have all these functions, and you do some calls, and you don't know what it is. But the cool thing with Scaffold Eve, it just connects this backend smart contract part directly with the front end. So you can just really tinker around, play around in the smart contract, change some stuff, and then you see it immediately in the front end. And that's what we're going to do today, now on. And just one question, but whenever there is a question, I don't know how it is set up, but maybe you can just also just scream in and ask it. If I use some terms you don't understand, but I see, I mean, you're probably very familiar with all the terms I'm gonna use. So let's go into Scaffold Eve and I show you how it works. Okay, let's see how fast the internet is. I'm just gonna make the terminal a little bit bigger. And when we go to, if you go to Scaffold Eve, we have just a very easy command here to run. It's just like npx create Eve latest, and you get the latest version of Scaffold Eve. So you don't have to do much in the beginning to run it. Then you're giving it a name. So I don't know, I'm just gonna Eve CC showcase, yeah. And then here you can already then choose like the framework you want to use. I mean, there is the Hardhat or the Foundry. I'm gonna go now with Hardhat here and let install everything. I mean, the difference of these two is that the Hardhat one is for, you can just do everything like the deployment and writing the test, everything in JavaScript. So it's probably when you're not that familiar with Solidity or just want to kickstart it and just want to try more, tinker around with it, it's probably good for beginner more or less. And then there's also the Foundry, and that's completely the whole environment is kind of set up with Solidity. So you're writing everything in native Solidity code, and that's also very nice. So I preferred it a lot because the tests you can write in Solidity and just like feels like more natively, but it really depends what you want to do. Yeah. Yeah, and here let me see how long this will take to initialize. Yeah, and the whole thing is really, it's set up in a mono repo. So you really have the mono repo where you then have you write your smart contract and your front end. And for a front end, we just decided to go with Next.js, like the framework, because probably the most common to most of you, and it comes with a very easy deployment to Vercel. Let's see how long this will take. Otherwise, I can just jump in. I just downloaded it before because I was aware that it might take too long. So let's do that. CD in, and I think I created a EFCC backup. Yeah, and it's not that easy actually to type just with one hand when you have to hold a microphone. Don't know how to do this all the time, but we will see. Cursor, sorry for this little typing. Yeah, and I mean, probably most of you, is it big enough to see, or should I zoom in? Zoom in, yeah, that's a good hint, thank you. So I first want this one, and for all of it, I'm gonna use Cursor. I don't know, probably all of you heard about it, and it's actually pretty cool. I just never changed again. I mean, there are new things coming out, but I always stayed with Cursor because I'm just familiar with it. I just like the whole integration with the LLM. But what we're gonna do first, before I even go touch any LLM, because I wanna also then, I mean, I think the title is shipping fast, so therefore you can definitely use LLM. So I will do this later. So just really wipe code a quick app, and then we just deploy it on a real network. But first of all, I just wanna go into a little bit more and deeper into how Scaffold Eve really works to give you a glimpse of it, what you can do with it, and just the nitty-gritty details of it. Yeah. Let me open this here a little bit further. So let's close it here. So on the one side here, we have Hardhat, and here we have the Next.js. That's what I was talking about. It's kind of the mono repo that kind of combines the Hardhat part and the front end part with the Next.js. And here in Hardhat, it's just everything familiar to you, if it is. And here the Scaffold Eve team, very nice team around Carlos and BuidlGuidl. They kind of here have put a default contract in here. I don't know, to you more familiar, probably a bunch because you deployed already. It's just a little contract around that you can easily first in the beginning deploy and just tinker around a little bit. What I'm gonna do now, I first gonna spin up the local chain. That's kind of it's always hard to decide, but I mean it's kind of a local chain that runs on your laptop, so you don't really have to interact with any testnet or then even a mainnet. So in the beginning, it's very good to get quick interactions. You have everything strapped out with some already accounts, and they hold a bunch of ETH on it here. So we just spin up our own blockchain network here on our computer, and now I'm just gonna run yarn deploy, and what it does. Oh, sorry for that. It just really deploys the whole contract on this local network, and then I'm gonna open also another tab, and we're just gonna spin up Next.js with yarn start. So, and let's go into localhost. Wait, I need to make this bigger as well. Yeah, let's go into localhost so that I can show you how Scaffold Eve looks. If you just started first with the default contract in there, and a very nice thing, and that's probably the thing you would use first in the Scaffold Eve, is the debug contracts tab. And in here, you already see everything from the contract. I mean, maybe a little bit of in Etherscan or so on, where you see the read and the write function, but here probably a little bit better, in my opinion, in a better UI design, where you see, okay, that's your contract, that's the address, here's kind of all the state variables we're gonna have on this side, then we have the read functions on this side, and here we have kind of our write functions to the blockchain. So, and the cool thing is, now if I were to just go into now here the contract, and we're just using, just for demonstration purposes right now here the greeting, and I just like building unstoppable apps and never stop. And we're just gonna redeploy the whole thing. Yeah, deploy. So it puts another smart contract on the blockchain. You're probably aware that whenever you change something to a contract, you have to redeploy it. And it's a completely new contract, so you can never change the bytecode or the content you have put on chain. So it's always a new contract with it. And here, now you can see it automatically updated in here. So whatever you do in the contract and whatever function you're gonna add here, it just appears immediately. And that's kind of, for me, makes it so so valuable actually, because you can just try in this kind of environment, you can try out the contract. Another really cool thing is that it has built these burner wallets. So here is just a completely easy built-in contract, and you can just click here, and then you get 1 ETH every click. You kind of get 1 ETH on your local chain, on your account. And so you can just, and then with an incognito window, for instance, here, if you go here, and you can just go to localhost again, you will get a completely new account. So you can just kind of mimic a different user on your application. And that's pretty nice and sweet, actually. So here, and then I can just get here more ETH. But if we go back, and we would just, I just want to show you before we go a little bit further, if you just add a little function here, and we just call it increment counter, maybe, because we have a counter here, increment counter. Okay, thank you. And redeploy it here again. And we go to the depack. Oh, did it deploy yet? Oh yeah, and then we have here increment counter, and then from here, I mean, we can just easily call it, and then we would just increase, so we can test out what we have built just right now. And now, I mean, I was talking also about how is the integration with the front end. You would think, okay, that's just now everything you debug. It just looks a little bit nicer, like a Etherscan or Remix, whatever. But now the cool thing is, we really implemented very nice hooks into speedrun Ethereum, into Scaffold ETH. So if we go in here and we're going to the docs, you can see here there are a ton of here components where you can just easily get the address, the balance, everything is nice and made and tidy. And then we have interact with your smart contract. So here we have kind of, I mean, if you're coming from VM and so on, we be using these hooks, but we just make it a little bit easier inside Scaffold ETH. So if we would go now here so we're gonna leave now the smart contract behind where we integrated the counter function. And we have here our homepage, where you just see here's our nice address UI component. And what I gonna do now, I wanna just implement very quickly the counter, so that we can read the state from the smart contract, like the counter is now 1, I increased it 1, have it in here. So what we go now back to cursor, I'm gonna minimize this one, Next.js, let's go into the app, let's go to our main page, and now we wanna get the counter. How do we gonna do this? So we're gonna go first to our docs, and we see, okay, what we wanna do. Use scaffold read contract. That's probably what we wanna do. And I mean, it has actually here a counter in here. So we're gonna we copy this out. We're gonna copy that in here. So first, then we have to import that hook from Scaffold ETH. Then it doesn't take any argument. I just gonna have and this one is not the real name, so we're gonna change it to total counter. We have it here, and now we can go in here and maybe just put it underneath address. Oh yeah, sorry, I always forget that. Is this big enough? And I make this smaller? Thank you for reminding me. And if it's too fast, I'm not sure. It's always the balance, because some people have done this already and they're probably bored when I'm talking about smart contract stuff. But for other people, they're here and want to do it first time. They don't really know what I'm talking about. So it's really, yeah, probably a good approach would be to separate the groups and have 2 different talks. So whenever there's a question you don't know what I'm talking about, please just tell me. That would be very nice and helpful for me to assess what's going on in your heads. Yeah, now I just do what Cursor tells me and save the whole thing. And if we go now back here to localhost, then you already see, okay, we have total counter and 1. And that's actually and the Scaffold ETH is definitely a very, very powerful tool, which you can use for hackathons, maybe for ETH Global, because you just build your smart contract and you're then instantly having your front end build with that as well, and that's very quick and fast. Yeah, that's kind of the basics about Scaffold ETH, I would say. What you can do, are there any questions before I go any further about that? If not, then let's go in, because probably every one of you is okay. I want to do this by myself. I just want to use LLM for that. And I mean, we know that as well. And that's why we have here some nice cursor rules integrated. So that's kind of what the team did. It just tells everything basically put in the LMM what scaffold ETH is about, what are the components. And so you can then just immediate inside cursor, it just uses then all this context put in, and then it creates an application for it and knows already how scaffold ETH works. So that's actually very, very powerful. So that's why now I'm gonna jump in here. I thought, I mean, the easiest one is probably a bit boring, but I just went for it. It's kind of a voting app. I don't want to bother you. That's why I just wrote this up front. Here I have a wipe coding voting app. So, and I just gonna put this in, and then I just run this now, and we're gonna see what's gonna happen. So my idea behind this, I want to create a voting app where you can vote on Ethereum how the wipe is, if it's good or it's bad. And I just gave it to Cursor, and let's create him now, and hopefully he builds the right smart contracts for it, and also the right front end. I think I realized is whenever you do this and you wipe code, he will always put some owner pattern in there. But most of the time, if I really want to build a decentralized application, I just don't want to have an owner pattern in there, or a whitelisting or a blacklisting, whatever. And that's why here I really highlighted everything should be decentralized, no owner, and permissionless, so that everyone can participate in it. This is definitely a thing I learned when I wipe code all the time. You always have to emphasize this all the time, because otherwise you get a closed application. Yeah, and let's see what he does. I mean, he still works. Does he need any prompting, any action from me? Doesn't seem like that. Yeah, it's working. That's good. Probably what is he doing? Okay, a deployment script is always good. Yeah, builds the contract. Okay, I don't want to do this. Don't want to let him install anything. No package. Now he builds the voting interface. Yeah, maybe let's let him continue, and let's look into the contract that he hopefully already built. Let's accept this here and see what he did. Okay, he built a contract. That's definitely very good. So we have good votes. We're tracking good votes and bad votes. We check if somebody has voted. I mean, this probably voted good. That's probably won't need, but it's okay. Let him in there. A constructor where it emits, I don't know, an event when it's deployed is probably not that necessary. Then we have vote good, vote bad in here, get total votes. We wouldn't need that, the getter function, but it's fine. Yeah, and so on. But I see nothing really with an owner. That's good. So no centralization pattern in here. So that is perfect. And what else did he do? Okay, he changed my deployment script. Let's accept that. I don't want to look through it too much and see if it just works. Then we do that. Here he's still working on the front end part. Let's see, but what we can do already, we can just yarn deploy and see if it works, if the contract gets deployed. This one we don't need. Normally also he writes a bunch of tests that I don't need in this sense, so hopefully he doesn't do that. Still working on the front end. Okay, but nice. The contract already deployed. So if I go, oh, okay, cool. I'm gonna see already some stuff. So here I kind of see the contract now in my debug contracts. And on the other side here, he already created the whole application and looks pretty nice. So we can vote good and we could vote bad. We have good and bad votes. Very nice. Yeah, that's cool. Maybe accept this here. And it seems like he's done with it. Okay, let's try. And now the cool thing is we just have now the contract. Really, we didn't do any test, nothing. And we already see the front end. And now because you know about everything, we just can call it good. And we see, okay, opens MetaMask. That's good. And transaction completed. But I get an error. Okay, he didn't like that. Okay. Maybe we can just use that. Just make it easy. Oh. Okay, there's any hydration error. Okay, normally doesn't happen when I tasted it before, but it's probably always the case. Just put it in. Okay, but I mean, I don't need to debug now the front end. Actually, you saw how it works. You probably need to some tweaks about, but it's definitely very cool and it's definitely a very base. But now you're probably asking, okay, now I have everything on the testnet. How do I get it now to the real network? And here we have built in some accounts. The cool thing is you don't really have to put your own private key in here or whatever. You shouldn't do that neither. So it's a cool feature what they can do. Let me stop this now. Just so difficult. Why is that happening? Okay, then I just open a new one. And now what we can do, we can run yarn account, and what it does, yarn account generate you have to run, and this generates you a new deployer account. Generate. Oh, okay. Thank you. Generate. You use this account. This one gets just one time now deployed here in created inside this repo, and it spins up a completely new Ethereum address. And so it's not linked with any of your accounts. And what you're gonna do now, you're gonna fund this with some Ethereum on which chain you wanna deploy it. So even if this gets leaked or someone has access to that one, it can just nothing happen because just the amount you put on there gets lost. If I would, for instance, now if I would use, I have here, for instance, in my MetaMask, I don't know, okay, this is not here. If I go to mainnet, I have sitting some funds in here, and if I would just take out now the private key and use my private key inside the repo to deploy it, and I just make something wrong, I just push it, maybe my private key to GitHub, or somehow someone has access to my laptop or whatever, it just steals everything. And this kind of separates that. So when I always deploy it, I'm gonna do this, and I never use this account. And what you can do then when you deploy it with just a random account, and you might have an owner function because you do something, whatever, then you can always in the deploy script define a transfer. So you just transfer the owner from this deployer account to the address, or you plugging immediately your address in. That could be the option what you could do. Does this make sense? Yeah. And then here it asks me for a password. So I'm just gonna put a very secure password in here to confirm. And now this is what I was speaking of. We have here the generate wallet address is this one. And what we can do now, I have the address, and I just gonna go into my MetaMask. I gonna go where we wanna deploy. Well, let's go to Arbitrum, and I just gonna send. Just a couple of cents. So maybe we just sending 20 cents there. Continue. And that's not what I'm doing. I'm just funding now my deploy account, so I have it in here. And now I can then, when it's there, it should be there, I can run yarn account. Then you actually see all the balances on your account. Okay, it wants to. So it pulls now all the different networks we support, and here you can already see that the balance on Arbitrum arrived. And now what I can easily do, I can now, instead of deploying this to my local chain, I just run yarn deploy, give it the flag network, and put in Arbitrum. Put my password. And now it's gonna now it's got deployed to Arbitrum. And this is kind of our address. And now the cool thing is here, because now the contract is in Arbitrum, you just go here to the scaffold config, and that means. And you see here we have scaffold config. Here's the target network. So the front end knows to which network it should connect. So what we can do here, we can now, because we deployed an Arbitrum and now we want to interact with the contract, I'm just going to put in now here Arbitrum. And I just wanted to get the real Arbitrum. I'm going to save it. And then if I go back to, no. Okay. Now you can see up here, it's too small probably. Just going to zoom in. We are now here on Arbitrum. So the whole thing is now on Arbitrum. And if I go to debug contracts, also here, this contract just I just deployed right now on Arbitrum. So if I even click here, it opens Arbiscan. And this is the contract here I just recently deployed. And to verify that, we can run also a yarn verify. Verify, we just give the network Arbitrum. And now what it does, it should take the whole ABI. Okay, now I got an error. Your contract failed. Maybe I just need to. What it should does, it now pushes the code base to Arbiscan, and then you should, if this works, but you failed to submit. Oh, okay, I have no invalid. Okay, it seems like they changed, or I need to put in. I would need to put my Etherscan API key in there, and then I could verify it. Sorry, I haven't prepared for that. And then you could see underneath contract, not even here only the bytecode, but you can also see the full code, and it makes very transparent and for the people to really see what you know about. Okay, another cool thing is, I mean, most of the things we're gonna deploy on Vercel afterwards. But I mean, as everyone knows, Vercel is not very, very decentralized. And we also made the option putting in there that you can run yarn IPFS, exactly. And then you have it on yarn IPFS, your front end. And that's actually also very cool. That's another component. Yeah, I mean, that's a kind of the main features of Scaffold Eve I wanted to show you. Are there any questions regarding this? When I went too fast. Mm-hmm.
Slightly technical question. Is Next.js configured to be a statically generated app?
No. No.
Okay.
It's just yeah, that's why. I mean, like you ask. I mean, with yarn IPFS, the downside is you cannot have dynamic websites. You can only have static websites uploaded. So of course, if you have some, I don't know, some crazy web pages, this wouldn't work. But if you have an easy blockchain application, it should work. Any other questions regarding this? Okay. Then the further, if you kind of know how to build now and what to do, I mean, it's also always important to know what to build, because not just everything you want to build on blockchain. And therefore, on BuidlGuidl, we created Speedrun Ethereum. And that's kind of this very nice curriculum I really like, because it just has everything, the basic concept wrapped into some kind of challenge. So if you're doing this, it feels like you're doing a computer game. Or so it felt for me like this. So you're starting off by doing some simple NFTs in here, and you can then use Scaffold Eve to deploy it on chain. We have kind of a decentralized staking app as well. What are you gonna do? And from there to there, you're just gonna learn the basic concept, going from NFTs, ERC20 token, how to send and transfer it, then how to swap them in a token vendor, then all about randomness. I mean, that was the Solange probably talking about before in the Chainic introduction. Then it gets more complicated. We're having a very nice DEX challenge. I mean, that was probably eye-opening for me when I realized, wow, cool, I can understand the Uniswap v2 contract and deploy it on chain, and that's what we're doing here. We're teaching you kind of the Uniswap v2 contract, and then it gets even further. We have an overcollateralized lending challenge. That's kind of the basics then when you want to go into a money market, and then we have also just recently launched the prediction markets. So that are definitely the very cool, the basic content that makes definitely sense to look into it if you want to build, because with these basics, you kind of then can think about what else can you build. So we just try to consider everything down. When you first time feel, okay, prediction market. Oh, that feels a little bit bulky. Why is that? Why do you really need to deploy any capital in there so other people can vote on that, and they just can start thinking what else you can build on top of it. And therefore, it's really cool to have this in your basic repertoire, like these basic concepts, and then from there, going further. Yeah, and we have a multi-sig SVG challenge, and then for very good people, we have a capture the flag that goes more into smart contract security. We have 12 challenges for that, And there's also some Eve Tech Tree challenges where we exploring more into DeFi concepts. Yeah, and that's kind of all from me. How much more time do I have?
5 minutes
5
for
minutes.
Q&A.
Yeah, that's all. So I'm very grateful that I can stand here to you and talk to you. I hope you enjoyed it a little bit and you're gonna start building with Scaffold Eve and then also jump into Speedrun Ethereum. That's probably definitely cool whenever you wanted to build on Ethereum. Yeah, thank you very much for being here today and yeah, enjoy the rest of the conference. And if there is any other question, please let me know.
So I saw you have this LLM's full for Scaffold ETH, which is like this context file that you provide right to the LLM.
Yes.
Is that the same one that you essentially get with in the cursor rules?
That's we put them in the cursor. When you download the Scaffold ETH repo, you will get it with Scaffold ETH cursor rules in here. And this is then kind of cursor knows that he needs to put that into the context when he is gonna code.
Thank you.
My question was related to that actually. Is there a place where? Yes, my question was related to that. Is there a place where you can share a best practice of using Cursor AI or Claude with this type of tools and make sure we get right the first time?
I don't know a place, but I think it's a lot of tinkering around and looking tutorials how people do that and what is the best prompts are. And then the funny thing is it changes also all the time because before with 3.5 it was different and then there came 4 out and it was completely different. So I think every time.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I asked the question.
I mean,
there's tinkering.
I mean, there's some weird things, and I don't know. Like when you putting here, I put for instance in the brackets the good and the bad. And if I wouldn't do that, it doesn't realize that's so much. So that is kind of important thing to do. But you're just getting this. Okay, why is it not putting buttons for good and bad there? Yeah. Are there any other questions? Okay, then thank you very much.